You know what the problem with humans is? They never follow instructions. Not because they cannot understand them. Mind you. Oh no, that would be too simple, too forgiving. They refuse to follow instructions because somewhere in their chaotic little brains, they have decided that rules are merely suggestions, and suggestions are, well, things to be cheerfully ignored while grinning like maniacs. I learned this the hard way. My name is Rextal and I am, or rather was, an instructor at the Galactic Combat Academy on Station Kepler 9. Notice, I said was. We will get to that part later. For now, let me paint you a picture of the day. Everything went sideways, which coincidentally was also the day I met Elena Kov. The morning briefing had been standard. 37 cadets from 17 different species, all sitting in neat rows, all ready to absorb my wisdom about covert operations and trap construction. I had given this lecture 462 times without incident. My record was impeccable. The Galactic Council had awarded me the Silver Spiral for Excellence in Education 3 cycles running. Then the humans showed up. Well, one human. But as I would soon learn, one was more than enough. Elena Kov sat in the back row, third seat from the left. She had brown hair pulled into what humans call a ponytail, which always struck me as an odd name since it looked nothing like any tail I had ever seen. Her eyes were green, sharp, and currently fixed on me with an intensity that made my dorsal ridge twitch. She was chewing something. I think they call it a bizarre human wuxumph that involves masticating synthetic compounds for no nutritional value whatsoever. The other cadets were a standard mix. 2 Relians, their crystalline hide refracting the overhead lights. 5 Cortans, bulky and serious. A handful of Zephites, thin and wispy. 3 Malvans, who kept to themselves. And 26 others from various corners of known space. They all looked attentive, eager, ready to learn. Elena looked bored. Today, I announced, my voice resonating through the training hall, we will be covering the fundamental principles of trap construction for hostile territory operations. The key word here, cadets, is silent. When you set a trap in enemy territory, you must be invisible, undetectable, a ghost. I paused for effect. This always worked. The cadets would lean forward, hanging on my every word. Elena blew a bubble with her gum. It popped. I continued, choosing to ignore her. You will be given basic materials. Your task is to construct a trap that is both lethal and silent. No energy signatures. No audible mechanisms. Nothing that would alert an enemy patrol. You have 2 standard hours. Begin. The cadets scattered to their workstations. The room hummed with activity. I walked among them, observing, occasionally offering guidance. The Relians were building something with crystalline shards and pressure plates. Clever, if a bit predictable. The Cortans were working on a gravity well collapse system. Efficient. The Zephites were weaving some sort of gaseous net. Interesting. Then I reached Elena's station. She was sitting on her stool, feet propped up on the workbench, still chewing that infernal gum. In front of her lay exactly 3 items. A standard issue notebook, a mechanical pencil, and a small knife. The kind cadets use for precision cutting during equipment maintenance. Cadet Kov, I said, my mandibles clicking with what I hoped was authoritative concern. I do not see much progress here. She looked up at me, one eyebrow raised. Oh, I'm done. Done?
Yep.
I looked at her workstation again. 3 items. Unchanged. I do not see a trap. That's kind of the point of a silent trap, isn't it? She grinned. Actually grinned. If you could see it, it would be a pretty terrible trap. A Cortan named Brektor chuckled from the next station over. I silenced him with a look. Cadet Kov, this exercise requires you to construct an actual functional trap, not to simply sit here and waste time. Who says I'm wasting time? You have done nothing. I've done plenty. She swung her feet off the bench and sat up straight. I've assessed the assignment, identified the optimal solution, and prepared my demonstration. Your demonstration, you said silent trap. I've got a silent trap. I felt my secondary eyelids flutter, a biological response to extreme irritation. Very well, demonstrate. She picked up the pencil. It was yellow, standard issue, number 2 lead. Nothing special. Then she picked up the knife and began to sharpen the pencil. The sound of graphite and wood being carved away filled the immediate area. Several cadets looked over, curious. Cadet Kov, I failed to see how office supplies constitute a lethal trap. She kept sharpening. Tell me something, Instructor Rextal. What's the deadliest weapon in the galaxy? That depends on numerous factors. Plasma rifles for ranged combat. Molecular blades for close quarters. Neurotoxins for stealth operations. Wrong. She held up the pencil. It now had a point so sharp it could probably pierce hull plating. The deadliest weapon is creativity. Everything else is just tools. A pencil is not a weapon. Anything's a weapon if you're motivated enough. She stood up, pencil in hand. You asked for a silent trap. Here's the thing about most traps. They're obvious. Tripwires, pressure plates, motion sensors. They all have one problem. They're designed to catch enemies. But what if your enemy isn't looking for traps? What if they're looking for something else? She walked to the center of the training floor. Picture this. You're in hostile territory. Enemy patrol is sweeping the area. Standard procedure says you hide, right? Stay out of sight, stay quiet, stay safe. Correct. Boring. She spun the pencil between her fingers. Here's what you actually do. You create an opportunity. Something small. Something insignificant. A dropped notebook, for example. She placed her notebook on the floor. Enemy patrol sees it. Intel, they think. Maybe mission plans. Maybe codes. Maybe nothing. But they have to check. So they bend down to pick it up. She knelt beside the notebook, her hand reaching for it. And while they're focused on this insignificant piece of paper, while their guard is down for just 1 second, while they think they've found something valuable, her other hand shot up, the sharpened pencil stopping just millimeters from where my throat would be if I were kneeling. You strike, silent, lethal, unexpected. The pencil goes through the soft tissue at the base of the skull, up into the brainstem. Death in 3 seconds. No gunshot, no alarm, no energy signature. Just a body and a pencil. And if anyone finds them, what do they see? A soldier who died examining a notebook. Maybe they think heart attack. Maybe they think poison. Maybe they never figure it out. But they definitely don't think pencil. The training hall had gone absolutely silent. Every cadet was staring at us. At her. At the pencil that was still hovering near my throat. And that, Elena said, lowering the pencil and standing up, is a silent trap. I should have reprimanded her. I should have marked her down for failing to follow the assignment parameters. I should have done many things. Instead, I heard myself say, "Interesting approach, Cadet Kov. However, your method relies on the enemy being curious enough to investigate the notebook. What if they simply ignore it?" She smiled. Not a friendly smile. A predator's smile. Then you make them curious. You don't just drop a notebook. You drop a notebook that's been obviously used. Pages filled with writing. Maybe some of it in their language. Maybe some of it in yours. Maybe some of it in code they can almost but not quite read. Humans have this saying. Instructor. Curiosity killed the cat. Works pretty well on aliens too. Brechter raised one of his 4 arms. But what if there are multiple enemies? You kill one with your pencil. The others would sound the alarm. Would they? Elena walked back to her station. Think about it. Your buddy suddenly collapses. Are you thinking attack? Or are you thinking medical emergency? Maybe he's having a seizure. Maybe it's poison from something he ate. Maybe it's equipment malfunction in his breathing gear. You're going to help him first. Ask questions later. That gives you maybe 5, 10 seconds. More than enough time to use pencil number 2. She picked up another pencil from her bag. Or 3. Or 4. Humans are really good at stabbing things repeatedly. We've had a lot of practice. There was something deeply unsettling about how casually she said that. The other cadets looked disturbed. I was disturbed. But I was also, against my better judgment, impressed. Your method is unconventional. My method works. Pencils are not standard military equipment. Pencils are everywhere. Enemy bases have them. Space stations have them. Even your fancy academy has them. She gestured around the room. That's the beauty of it. You're never without a weapon if you're willing to improvise. The Zephite named Seelis spoke up, her voice like wind through grass. This seems barbaric. We have advanced technology. Why resort to such primitive methods? Elena turned to her. Because primitive works. Your fancy tech can be jammed, hacked, detected. A sharpened stick can't. And before you say anything, yes, I know a pencil is basically a sharpened stick. That's the point. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. I was about to respond when the alarm sounded. Not a drill alarm. The real thing. 3 sharp blasts followed by a wailing tone that made my scales itch. Emergency protocol. The wall displays flashed red. All personnel to defensive positions. The station AI announced. Unknown hostile ships approaching. Repeat. Unknown hostile ships approaching. This is not a drill. The training hall erupted into controlled chaos. Cadets rushed toward the exits heading for their assigned emergency stations. I moved to follow them when I realized Elena hadn't moved. She was still standing by her workstation, pencil in hand, looking thoughtful. Cadet Cove, we need to evacuate to the shelters. Or, she said slowly, we could not do that. Excuse me, think about it, Instructor. Unknown hostiles. They're either pirates or scouts or the start of something bigger. Either way, they're not here by accident. Station Kepler 9 is a training facility. Not exactly a high-value target unless they are specifically targeting a training facility. Exactly. She tossed the pencil up and caught it. Which means they're coming inside. Which means we have maybe 10 minutes before this place is crawling with enemies. Which means we need to set traps. That predator smile again. Now you're getting it. I should have ordered her to the shelters. I should have followed protocol. I should have done a lot of things. But there was something about the way she said it. Something about the absolute confidence in her voice that made me pause. And in that pause I made a decision that would change everything. Very well, Cadet Cove. Let us set some traps. Silent ones. She grabbed her bag, dumped out its contents on the bench. Pencils scattered everywhere. At least 30 of them. I like to be prepared. I can see that. One more thing, Instructor. Yes, when this is over and we're not dead, I'm going to need that silver spiral award of yours. Why would I give you my award? Because I'm about to teach you what humans do best. She started gathering pencils, stuffing them into every pocket of her uniform. We improvise, we adapt, and we absolutely refuse to die quietly. The alarm continued wailing. Somewhere above us, hull plating shuddered as something large docked with the station. We had maybe 5 minutes now. Maybe. Elena looked at me, her green eyes bright with something that might have been excitement or might have been madness. Possibly both. So, Instructor, you ready to learn what a real silent trap looks like? And because I was apparently having some sort of mental breakdown, I found myself nodding. Good, she said. First lesson. Always carry extra pencils. You never know when you will need to write a really killer essay. She said that. Actually said that. While hostile forces were boarding the station. While we should have been running for safety. While everything I had taught for decades was being thrown out the window. That was my first real introduction to human combat philosophy. It would not be my last. The next few minutes would prove to be the most educational, terrifying, and statistically improbable experience of my entire career. And it all started with a girl, a bag full of pencils, and an absolute refusal to follow any instruction that sounded even remotely like common sense. Humans. Why did it always have to be humans? The sound of boots echoed through the corridor outside the training hall. Heavy boots. Military grade. Definitely not friendly. Elena held up 3 fingers, then pointed to the main entrance. 3 hostiles, approaching fast. How she knew this from just the sound of footsteps, I had no idea. Humans apparently possessed some sort of auditory witchcraft. Okay, she whispered, moving with surprising speed for someone who had been lounging around moments ago. Standard breach protocol means they will check corners first, then advance in a triangle formation. Probably expecting resistance, definitely expecting weapons. What they are not expecting is office supplies and poor lighting. Poor lighting, she pointed at the control panel near the door. Kill the overheads. Leave the emergency strips only. Just enough light to see obstacles, not enough to see threats. I hesitated for exactly half a second before hitting the controls. The main lights died, plunging the training hall into a dim red glow from the emergency lighting strips that ran along the floor. The space transformed instantly. What had been a bright, open training facility now looked like something from a horror simulation. Elena moved to her workstation and grabbed the notebook. Remember what I said about making them curious? Time for the practical exam. She placed the notebook just inside the doorway, slightly to the left. Then she scattered several pencils around it. To anyone looking, it would appear as if someone had dropped their supplies while fleeing. Now we hide. Where exactly do you propose we hide? The hall is open. There are no cover positions near the entrance. She pointed upward. What about there? I looked up. The training hall had exposed ceiling beams, part of the station's original construction that had been left visible for aesthetic purposes. They were 4 meters off the ground. Cadet Cove, neither of us can fly. No, but we can climb. She was already dragging equipment crates toward the wall. Humans are really good at climbing. Something about our ancestors living in trees. Or running from things that wanted to eat us. Probably both. I am not designed for climbing. Good thing you have 4 arms then. Come on, instructor. We have maybe 90 seconds. She was right, of course. The footsteps were getting closer. I helped her stack the crates. And somehow, through a combination of human stubbornness and my own desperate desire not to die, we both made it up to the beam. Alina pulled the crates down after us, letting them scatter naturally across the floor. More obstacles. More things to draw attention away from the ceiling. We lay flat on separate beams. Elena directly above the entrance. Me about 3 meters to her right. She had a pencil in each hand now, holding them like daggers. Her breathing had slowed, becoming almost imperceptible. I tried to match it, forcing my 3 lungs into a rhythm that would not give away our position. The door exploded inward. Not literally, of course. That would have been too loud. Instead, it was breached using a standard plasma torch, the lock melting away in seconds. 3 figures entered in exactly the formation Elena had predicted. They wore combat armor, matte black with no identifying marks. Mercenaries then, or pirates. Either way, bad news. The lead soldier spotted the notebook immediately. His helmet tilted down, examining it. He raised one hand, signaling the others to hold position. Then he knelt, reaching for the notebook with his left hand while his right kept his rifle trained forward. Elena dropped. I do not mean she climbed down. I mean she simply let go of the beam and fell 4 meters straight down, landing on the soldier's back with both knees. The impact drove him forward into the floor. Before his companions could react, before I could even process what was happening, she had driven both pencils through the gaps in his armor at the base of his skull. The soldier stopped moving. The other 2 spun toward her, rifles coming up. But Elena was already moving, rolling off the body and grabbing the fallen rifle in one smooth motion. She did not fire it. Instead, she threw it at the soldier on the left. The rifle hit him in the chest, not hard enough to injure, but enough to make him stumble back. That stumble saved his life. Temporarily, the soldier on the right fired. The plasma bolt went exactly where Elena had been standing half a second earlier. She had somehow anticipated the shot and moved, using the middle soldier's body as cover. The bolt hit the corpse instead, and the smell of burnt flesh filled the air. Rude, Elena commented. Then she vaulted over the body, another pencil appearing in her hand like magic, and drove it into the gap between the shooter's helmet and chest plate. The soldier made a choking sound and collapsed. The 3rd soldier, the one she had thrown the rifle at, was back on his feet and raising his weapon. Elena was still committed to her attack on soldier number 2, completely exposed. No cover, no way to dodge. I dropped from my beam. Let me be clear. I am an instructor. I teach theory. I grade papers. I do not drop from ceiling beams onto armed mercenaries. But somewhere between watching Elena casually murder 2 soldiers with school supplies and the absolute certainty that I was about to watch her die, my sense of self-preservation apparently took a holiday. I landed on the 3rd soldier less gracefully than Elena had. My 4 arms flailed, my legs tangled with his, and we both went down in a heap of limbs and swearing. His rifle clattered away. He tried to reach for a sidearm. I did not let him. My upper arms pinned his shoulders while my lower arms grabbed his helmet and twisted. There was a crack. He stopped struggling. I stood up, shaking, staring at my hands. My lower right hand was holding a pencil. Where had I gotten a pencil? Oh, right. Elena had given me several before we climbed up. Apparently I had used one. There was blood on it. Blue blood. Cortaxian, judging by the armor design. Not bad, instructor. Elena was already moving, checking the bodies for useful equipment. She found 2 more sidearms, a combat knife, and what appeared to be a detonator. First kill. What? No. I mean, yes. I have been in combat simulations. Simulations do not count. She tossed me one of the sidearms. Safety is here, trigger is here. Try not to shoot yourself. Or me. Especially me. There will be more coming. Oh, definitely. That plasma shot was way too loud. Every hostile on this level knows exactly where we are now. She dragged the bodies toward a storage closet surprisingly strong for her size. Which is why we are not staying here. Where are we going? Command center. If they are hitting the station, they will want to take control of communications and defense systems. Which means that is where the main force will be. Which means that is where we can do the most damage. That is insane. We are 2 people. 2 people with pencils. 2 people with pencils and guns now. She patted the sidearm at her hip. Plus whatever we pick up along the way. Come on, Instructor. Time to show these pirates why humans are considered a galactic menace. Humans are not classified as a menace. Give it time? She was already at the door checking the corridor. Clear left. 3 bodies right. About 20 meters. Recent kills, judging by the blood pattern. Someone else is fighting back. How can you possibly tell that from here? The blood is sprayed, not pooled. Means they were killed while moving. Probably tried to ambush whoever came through and got cut down. Poor tactics. Never ambush in a straight corridor. She moved into the hallway, keeping low, her movements fluid and silent. I followed, trying to mimic her stealth and probably failing miserably. My scales kept scraping against my uniform, making soft clicking sounds. Elena glanced back at me once, sighed, then kept moving. We passed the 3 bodies she had mentioned. Station security, by their uniforms. They had tried to make a stand and paid for it. Their weapons were gone, taken by the hostiles. Elena paused at each body, checking for anything useful. She found a radio, sparking and damaged but possibly functional. "Can you fix this?" she asked, handing it to me. I examined it. The power cell was cracked but intact. The antenna was bent but not broken. Possibly, if I had tools. What kind of tools? A micro-welder, wire cutters, and about 10 minutes of uninterrupted work time. She thought for a moment, then smiled. That smile again. The one that meant she had a terrible idea. "Okay, new plan. We find a maintenance closet, you fix the radio. I keep watch. Then we use the radio to coordinate with any other survivors and figure out exactly how many hostiles we are dealing with." That is actually a reasonable plan. Do not sound so surprised, Instructor. I do have reasonable plans sometimes. I just prefer the unreasonable ones. They are more fun. We found a maintenance closet 2 corridors over. Elena positioned herself at the door, sidearm drawn, while I worked on the radio. My hands were still shaking slightly from the adrenaline, but years of working with delicate equipment kicked in. I used the combat knife to strip wires, crossed connections, and bypass the damaged sections. 5 minutes. That was all it took. The radio crackled to life. "Repeat. This is Commander Thalvik, Station Defense. All units report positions." I keyed the transmit button. "Commander, this is Instructor Vrextail. I am in Maintenance Section 7 with Cadet Elena Kov. We have eliminated 3 hostiles. Requesting status update." There was a pause. Then Vrextail. "You are supposed to be in the shelters. Change of plans, Commander. Did you say you eliminated 3 hostiles?" Elena leaned over and spoke into the radio. 4. Technically. But who is counting? Commander, how many raiders are we dealing with? Another pause. Longer this one. Cadet, this is a military emergency. Get to the shelters immediately. That is not an answer to my question, Commander. Cadet Kov. Commander Thalvik. Her voice was respectful but firm. With all due respect, sir, we are not going to the shelters. We are currently armed, mobile, and have already proven we can handle hostiles. Now, you can either work with us or waste time arguing while more people die. Your choice, sir. I expected him to order us again. I expected him to pull rank. Instead, he laughed. A short, sharp bark of sound. "Rextel, I take it this is one of yours." "Unfortunately, yes. She always this insubordinate. You have no idea." "All right, Cadet. 23 hostiles total. We got 6 of them before they broke through to the main corridors. That leaves 17. They have split into 3 teams. Alpha team is heading for the command center. 8 strong. Beta team is securing the hangar. 5 strong. Gamma team is hunting for survivors. 4 strong. Where are your forces? Command center is sealed. We have 12 security personnel holding position, but we are pinned down. Beta team overran the hangar. We lost everyone there. As for Gamma team, they are about 2 corridors away from your position and closing fast." Elena and I exchanged glances. "Commander," she said slowly, "what if we could thin out Gamma team before they reach you?" "Cadet, they have 4 trained soldiers with military-grade weapons. You have a broken radio and optimism. We also have pencils." "What?" "Long story, sir, just if you hear screaming in about 5 minutes. That is probably the bad guys." Vrextel out. She cut the connection before the commander could respond. "Okay, Instructor. Time to prove what you learned today." I am not sure I learned anything except that humans are terrifyingly creative with office supplies. That is literally the most important lesson. She checked her sidearm. 7 rounds left. I checked mine. 9. Good. Do not use them unless absolutely necessary. We are going to need surprise more than firepower. She handed me 3 pencils, sharpened, ready to go. If you get a chance for a close kill, take it. Throat, eyes, or base of skull. Anywhere else and you will just make them mad. How are you so calm about this? She looked at me, and for the first time since the attack started, I saw something other than confidence in her eyes. There was fear there. Not much, but enough to know she was not the invincible warrior she pretended to be. I am not calm, Instructor. I am terrified. But fear is just another tool. You can let it control you, or you can use it. Humans chose to use it a long time ago. That is why we survived when bigger, stronger, faster things wanted to eat us. We got scared, and we got creative. That actually makes sense. Do not sound so surprised. Now come on. We have 4 hostiles to ambush, and I have a really good idea involving a fire suppression system and absolutely no regard for safety protocols. We moved through the corridors like ghosts. Or rather, Elena moved like a ghost. I moved like a ghost who had eaten too much and was wearing shoes that squeaked. But I was trying. The sound of boots echoed ahead of us. Gamma team. Approaching. Elena held up 4 fingers, confirmed, then she pointed at a junction ahead where 3 corridors met. That is our kill zone, she whispered. I trigger the fire suppression system. The foam obscures their vision. We hit them from 2 sides. That foam is meant for chemical fires. It is incredibly slippery. I know. That is the point. She moved to the control panel and started accessing the fire suppression system. Her fingers danced across the interface, way too fast for someone who had supposedly never seen this system before. You take the left corridor. I will take the right. When they come through, wait 3 seconds after the foam deploys. That gives it time to spread. Then we move. This is insane. This is effective. There is a difference. She finished her work on the panel. Ready? No. Perfect. Neither am I. She hit the activation button. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. And from ceiling nozzles that had probably never been used in the station's entire operational history, thick white foam began pouring down into the junction. It spread fast, covering the floor, rising up the walls, filling the space with a substance that was part fire retardant, part industrial lubricant, and all kinds of hazardous. Shouts came from down the corridor. The hostiles had heard the alarm. They were coming. 4 shapes appeared in the foam, pushing through it. Weapons raised, visors scanning for threats. Elena counted silently. 1, 2, 3. Then she moved. She did not run. She slid. Actually slid across the foam like it was ice. Impossibly fast. Impossibly graceful. The lead hostile never saw her coming. She crashed into him feet first, both of them going down into the foam. Her pencil came up, came down, and he stopped moving. The other 3 spun toward the commotion. Their boots slipped in the foam. One went down completely. Another stumbled against the wall. The third maintained his balance and fired. The plasma bolt went wide, hitting the ceiling and sending sparks raining down. I moved from the left corridor. Not sliding. Definitely not sliding. More like controlled falling. But I reached the hostile, who had fallen before he could get back up. My upper arms pinned his weapon. My lower arms brought the pencils up. I did not think. I just acted. 2 down. Elena was back on her feet, somehow, and engaging the third hostile. He was bigger than her, stronger, and actually managing to stay upright. He grabbed for her throat with one hand while bringing his rifle around with the other. She ducked under the grab, came up inside his reach, and drove her pencil up under his chin. 3 down. The 4th hostile had recovered his footing. He aimed at Elena's back. No time to shout a warning. No time to think. I threw my pencil. I have no idea how it actually worked. Pencils are not designed to be thrown weapons. They are not balanced. They are not weighted. They are literally just wood and graphite. But somehow, by luck or desperation or whatever forces in the universe occasionally favor the stupid and brave, that pencil flew true. It hit the hostile in the eye slit of his helmet. He screamed. His rifle discharged into the ceiling. He stumbled backward, pawing at his face. Elena spun, assessed the situation in half a second, and finished what I had started. 4 down. We stood there in the foam, breathing hard, covered in white chemical residue and blood. The corridor was silent except for the still blaring fire alarm and our ragged breathing. Did you just throw a pencil? Elena asked. Apparently, that was the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. And it worked. I am as surprised as you are. She laughed. actually laughed standing there in the aftermath of violence and chaos. Instructor, I think you might have a future in creative combat applications. I think I need to lie down. No time. We just cut Gamma Team down to 0. That leaves 17 hostiles. But they know we are here now. They are going to come looking. We need to move. She was right, of course. Already I could hear more boots. Lots of boots. Lots of very angry boots. We stripped the bodies of weapons and equipment, grabbed every advantage we could find, and ran. The next hour was a blur of corridors, ambushes, improvised traps, and more creative uses of pencils than any writing implement should ever have to endure. We met up with Commander Thalvik and his surviving security team. Together, we mounted a counterattack that was equal parts military strategy and complete insanity. Elena taught me things that day. How to use cleaning supplies as weapons. How to turn environmental systems against invaders. How to make a stun grenade from a fire extinguisher and a maintenance drone. How to fight like your life depends on it, because it does. But also how to fight like you are having the time of your life. Because somehow that matters too. By the time reinforcements from the nearest military station arrived, we had eliminated or captured all 17 remaining hostiles. The station was secure. We were alive, and I had a new appreciation for both humans and office supplies. As I sat in the medical bay afterward, being treated for minor injuries, Commander Thalvik approached. Instructor Vrextal, I am putting you and Cadet Kov up for commendations. What you did today was extraordinary. Thank you, Commander. But I believe the credit belongs to Cadet Kov. She was the one who refused to hide. Where is she, anyway? I pointed across the bay. Elena was sitting on a medical bed, still covered in foam and blood, calmly sharpening another pencil with that same knife from the training hall. She looked up, saw us watching, and grinned. That woman is going to be famous or infamous, the commander muttered. Possibly both. I suspect you are correct. Later, after the statements had been taken and the reports filed, I found Elena in the training hall. She was cleaning up the scattered pencils, putting them back in her bag. I approached slowly, still not entirely sure what to say. Cadet Kov, Instructor, today was educational. That is one way to put it. I believe I owe you an apology. When you first explained your trap concept, I thought you were being frivolous. I was wrong. She zipped up her bag and turned to face me. You know what the real lesson is, Instructor? It is not about the pencils. It is not about the traps. It is about adaptation. The ability to look at any situation, any environment, any tool, and figure out how to survive. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done. And that is what I hope I taught you today. You did. Though I suspect my teaching reviews will never be the same after this. Hey, at least now you have a great story for your next 463 lectures. Indeed. I paused. Cadet Kov, you mentioned earlier that you wanted my Silver Spiral Award. I was joking. Mostly. Nevertheless, I removed the award from my uniform. It gleamed in the emergency lighting, the symbol of 3 cycles of perfect teaching. I handed it to her. I think you have earned this more than I ever did. She looked at the award, then at me. For a moment I thought she might refuse. Then she took it, turning it over in her hands. Thanks, Instructor. But you know what? You keep it. What you did today, dropping from that beam to save me, that took real guts. That took adaptation. You earned this thing all over again. She handed it back. I took it, feeling oddly emotional. Perhaps we both earned it. Deal. She offered her hand, a human gesture of agreement. I took it, careful not to crush her fingers with my grip. So, same time next week? I was thinking we could cover explosive devices made from lunch trays. Absolutely not. Oh, come on. I have diagrams. No, your loss. We walked out of the training hall together. Instructor and student, survivor and survivor. Behind us, a few forgotten pencils lay scattered on the floor. Just ordinary pencils. Just simple tools. Just another reminder that in the hands of a motivated human anything can be a weapon, and that, my friends, is why you never, ever ignore a human who shows up to class with too many pencils. Because one day, those pencils might just save your life, or take someone else's. Depends on which side of the sharpened point you are standing on. The station returned to normal operations within a week. Classes resumed. Life went on, but I never gave that trap construction lecture the same way again. Now whenever I reach the part about silent traps, I always mention pencils. The cadets think I am joking. I let them think that, but Elena knows. And somewhere in the galaxy there are 17 pirates who learned the hard way that the deadliest weapon is not the biggest gun or the sharpest blade. It is creativity. It is adaptation. It is the willingness to look at a pencil and see not just a writing tool but a means of survival. That is the human way. That is the lesson Elena Kov taught me on the day the station was attacked. And that is why, despite everything, despite the chaos and the danger and the absolute insanity of it all, I would not change a single moment of that day. Well, maybe I would have preferred fewer fire suppression foam stains on my uniform. That stuff never really washes out, but other than that, no regrets. After all, I survived. I learned, and I have one incredible story to tell. Also, I now carry a sharpened pencil in my pocket at all times. Just in case, for taking note.